Oklahomans need their voice in the public policy conversation. Every discussion about public policy solutions right now is Washington-centric. So the middle ground focuses on shifting the conversation back here to the heartland and what the people of Oklahoma think about their lives and their future. The status quo is failing. Regardless of what your beliefs are, the status quo isn't working. Well, that's a middle ground. That is the middle concept that we can all agree on. From the middle, we can come and find those solutions together that empower our people and create opportunity for all. Good morning, Oklahoma. Welcome to the Middle Ground, the show that believes the status quo isn't working and we can write a better future. I'm your host, Michael Carnuccio. Today we'll be discussing our roads, everything from deficient bridges, construction projects, and how we compare to other states in the region. And we'll explain what all of this means to you. Why should you care about our roads and bridges? And what effect do they have on your life and your family? But before we get into all of that, here's a little bit of background. The American Society of Civil Engineers has recently issued a report card for Oklahoma's infrastructure, giving Oklahoma a D rating for both our roads and our bridges. This report was created by more than 20 engineers who spent more than 18 months researching our infrastructure. All of these grades were peer-reviewed and scrutinized by ASC's Advisory Council. According to the report, Oklahoma's roads are poorly maintained, inadequately funded, and not designed to meet future needs. Now, this report gave Oklahoma a D plus for our bridges, with 5,382, or nearly 23% of them, considered structurally deficient. According to the report, 1,604 bridges are considered functionally obsolete. But more simply, 1 in 5 of Oklahoma's bridges are deemed deficient. That report gave our roads a D, with 70% of Oklahoma's roads in poor or mediocre condition. Driving on insufficient roads reportedly costs $978 million a year in extra vehicle repairs and operating costs for Oklahoma's drivers. That's $425 per motorist on the road in Oklahoma. Now, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation has created an 8-year plan to address some of these issues that began in 2012. Governor Fallin also enacted the Bridge Improvement and Turnpike Modernization Plan, which added 126 bridges that were not originally part of ODOT's plan. Here to discuss all of this is Gary Ridley, Oklahoma's Secretary of Transportation. And it's important to note that Gary has also served as Director of ODOT from 2001 to 2013, as well as the Director of Oklahoma Turnpike Authority from 2009 to 2013. Secretary Ridley, thank you so much for being here. You have obviously been involved and helped Oklahoma understand where we are and where we're going. Folks may just understand roads of surrounding states. Can you help give us a little bit of context to what we see in Oklahoma today?
Sure, and I think the driving public really doesn't need for me to tell them how bad the roads are and how bad they have gotten over the years. But things are changing, and it's good that your program talks about not staying. The status quo is not good enough for Oklahomans, and certainly Governor Fallin, the members of the legislature in 2005 and 2006, under the leadership of Speaker Hyatt and Chairman of our Transportation Appropriations Chair in the House, Mark Leota, decided that they needed to help us, and we explained to them how serious our problem was and how bad it was getting. We really recognized the problem more in total when the bridge went down on I-40 in 2002 at Weber's Falls, and that was because of what the condition of the detours were like when we put interstate traffic on them. We had bridges, quite frankly, that you could stick your hands through the beams of the bridges, and the beams were collapsing under the load of traffic that we had on them. And we were jacking those bridges up and cutting the beams off and setting them back down while traffic was running on them because we had no place else to put anybody.
Sure.
So we recognized that all of a sudden we really had some serious issues, and it was getting worse in Oklahoma because of decades of inaction and decades of underfunding. But that changed in 2005, 2006. It's been changing ever since then, and certainly the governor's plan back a couple years ago, that she wanted an end game. We talked about how bad our bridges were on the state system. We had about 1,170 that were structurally deficient at the time, and back in 2005, 2006. But she wanted us to be able to have an end game as to when they'd be in a manageable condition.
Sure.
When would our system be where we could call it manageable? And with bridges alone, with the investment that we're making, we believe with the 8-year program in place, if we can continue it, and that's a big if, because as you know, sometimes priorities change at the legislature.
Sure.
And that causes us serious concerns whenever we put a plan in place and we're incrementally working on that plan, that we don't take a step backwards, that we continue to move forward. If we continue to move forward, and if we're able to have fully funded, which is under current statutes, we think by the end of the decade that we'll be in a position where we'll be very close to having less than 1% of our bridges on the state system being structurally deficient. That will put us in line with surrounding states like Kansas and Texas.
So there's reports that come out all the time on different core functions of government, and sometimes they have varying degrees of impact or maybe a basis in reality to what the state is going through. Do you agree, and do you find that there's comfort in this report from the ASCE and that that's a good picture now, or do you think that's just a static glimpse and it doesn't tell the story of where we are?
It really doesn't tell the story where we are.
Okay.
What it does is gives you a snapshot in time. And it doesn't tell you where you've been, it'll tell you where you're at, but maybe not where you're going. We believe that we are moving in the right direction. And again, when we are fully funded in 2018, that we'll put ourselves on a track that we can, people can see that we're not only able to preserve our assets, but we'll be able to improve those assets. I think that I would think that the public would take a little comfort in knowing that when you invest in transportation, you're investing in a hard asset. Mm-hmm. We're not adding additional people, we're not growing government, we're taking the money and putting it back and investing in the public, and the public is able to invest in themselves. And we think that's important. I would think as a taxpayer, I would think that would be important as well.
Yeah, I want to touch on a topic, something you mentioned earlier about how there were decades of kind of inadequate funding, or at least the approach to transportation. Let's help the public at home understand, how did we get here? How did we find ourselves in 2005 with really needing to put an aggressive plan together?
Well, if you back up from 1985 through 2006, that the transportation budget in state government with state funds was reduced from what it was for 21 years. So it was stagnant for 21 years, but in reality it was less in the 21st year than it was in the first year. So we had less money to spend in 2005 than we did in 1985. Why that is, I don't know. You'd have to ask the people of the
Sure.
time. But the legislature, again in 2005, 2006, and since that time, along with it then Governor Henry and now Governor Fallon, has said we need to make transportation a priority of the state. Prior to then, it was not a priority of the state.
Let's real quick give folks at home a quick snapshot and understanding. When we say 8-year plan, what is that exactly? Roads, bridges, how many are we addressing?
Sure. The 8-year construction work plan, and we started putting that together in 2001, 2002, to develop a plan that ensures that we are only committing the resources that we will have available, so that we're not over-programming or telling people we're going to build stuff we can't build because we don't have the funds for. So the plan is financially constrained. It's reevaluated every year, and you add an extra year to it. But the current plan that we have in place has about 900 bridges in it, some 600 two-lane highways that we're going to work on. It's going to change the face of Oklahoma over the next 7 to 8 years.
Secretary Ridley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate your time today. The American Society of Civil Engineers plan to issue report cards every 4 years, so we'll update you as that comes out. If you would like to see the full report card, we have it linked on our Facebook page at facebook.com/MiddleGround TV. That's also where you can find this interview and some more interviews that we've done. We'll be right back. We have a vision of Oklahoma that in the 21st century, you and I can be living in a daily land run where freedom just seems to seep out of the ground, where free enterprise creates opportunity for everyone at all levels of society. That is the type of Oklahoma that we were founded on. That's what this state was created upon, and that's where we see our future. It is extremely important to be educating citizens and lawmakers, parents, even children, about what it means to be an American. What is in the history of Oklahoma? What happened during the land run, where people came from all over the world to stake their claim and build up their opportunity here in this state. It's important that we continue to sell that message, and we continue to tell people about where we came from and what is in our DNA.
I mean, I think policy at its core is making sure that we inject into the marketplace ideas that provide solutions, conservative ideas that provide solutions to the challenges that we face as a state and as a nation. And to have someone like OCPA continually engaged in submitting and formulating ideas to inject into that marketplace and challenge the thought process, the mindset at the Capitol, is very, very refreshing.
OCPA is founded on the philosophy that free markets, individual liberty, individual initiative, and personal responsibility are what build safe, sustainable societies. It's what empowers people. Anyone, no matter what their socioeconomic status, no matter what their hopes or their dreams are, should care about the success of OCPA, because as we breed excellence, as we succeed, what we're doing is ensuring that they have every opportunity available to them at their fingertips, and that no matter how big their dream, they can achieve it, because we're going to clear that pathway for them. Welcome back, folks. We asked Congressman James Lankford for his take on Oklahoma's transportation situation, and here's what he had to say.
Thanks, Michael. I'm glad to give you all an update on some of the transportation and infrastructure bills that we're working on in the House of Representatives. Last Congress, I served on the House Transportation Committee. In 2012, we passed a 2-year highway bill, which actually became law. The process was more than just some simple transfer of funds in the Highway Trust Fund to keep it running. The final version made strong policy improvements, like reducing the number of federal transportation programs by 2/3. The bill also streamlined the lengthy and often duplicative environmental review process from an average of 15 years down to 7. And under the common sense category, the bill exempted farm trucks from the commercial vehicle regulations on farmers crossing state lines, which should have never been in law in the first place. The key area that I fought for personally in this bill was a provision for states to take control of their construction process. Prior to 2012, every time a state took a federal dollar, which actually came, by the way, from Oklahoma taxpayers, they had to add millions of dollars of new regulations to the project. Now 70% of the construction projects in Oklahoma fall under state oversight. That's a 70% improvement, but it still means we have 30% more to go to be able to give states the greater control over construction dollars. See, in 1956, when the National Highway Program actually began, the plan was to build the highways nationwide and allow the states to take care of them. A federal gas tax was added to every gallon of gas, which currently is 18.4 cents a gallon. That was set aside to pay for both construction and maintenance of those roads. But as with other federal programs, the National Highway Program has become distracted. So now gas tax dollars are going to flowers and city streets and museums and endless construction mandates from people who've never even been to Oklahoma. Our Oklahoma roads need help, but federal mandates create more potholes than they actually solve. Roads built or repaired using only state or county tax money, for example, are only a fraction of the cost of federal roads. What if the gas tax dollars from Oklahoma was returned back to Oklahoma, and the State Department of Transportation was allowed to manage those dollars without federal mandates? I can assure you, our Oklahoma State Department of Transportation would get more miles of construction with local oversight and local priorities. Interstate transportation allows the nation to have free and open commerce, so there is a federal responsibility to ensure this infrastructure can support our economy. This year, let me give you one other example. Congress passed a major bill to prioritize our interstate and international ports. People forget Oklahoma has the northernmost inland port off the Mississippi River waterway, just outside of Tulsa. The McClellan-Kerr Arkansas River Navigation System links Oklahoma with a 25,000-mile inland waterway system. Tulsa's Port of Catoosa sits near the head of that system and hosts more than 60 manufacturing and distribution companies, which employ 4,000 Oklahomans. Maintaining the port and the waterway system is key to keeping American commerce flowing and keeping those jobs in Oklahoma. Still a lot of work to do to streamline our nation's transportation priorities, but getting all this passed is a significant achievement. We got to get over this issue about federalizing all transportation, get it back to the states. Michael, Thanks for all the work that OCPA is doing, and God bless y'all.
And thank you, Congressman Langford. We appreciate that update. You know, most people agree that roads and bridges and funding for those is a core function of government. But with respect to Oklahoma, that's not always been the approach. Joining us now is Mark Leota, Chief Deputy County Commissioner and former House Appropriations Chair for Transportation. Mark, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off. You heard Secretary Ridley talking about the picture before in Oklahoma and where we've come from, where we've gone. Well, you were a key piece of that. So what was it like going through the legislature and trying to get transportation on the table?
Well, put yourself in my place. When I took over as Appropriations Chair, we had not funded appropriately transportation for over 20 years, and the net result of that was a $6 billion backlog of maintenance. When you don't do maintenance, a bridge with a 50-year lifespan, if you do the maintenance on it, you can make it last 80 years if you have to, but if you don't do the maintenance, it's not going to last. And so that's the system that we inherited that had not been appropriately maintained, did not have the dollars to do that. And we came in on the heels of a gas tax increase that failed miserably. It was the attempt to inject funding into transportation. So I looked at that as, okay, here's our opportunity. Instead of trying to increase taxes, let's look at what we currently get and redirect those dollars into transportation. What we did was we looked at any new revenue, because I didn't want to fight with other funding priorities to try to get dollars into transportation. So we said, okay, any new dollars that come into the state, let's direct those to transportation right off the top and try to ramp up transportation funding to what it should be. And so our plan was to basically double the transportation over a 5 or 6 year period to get the dollars in to start working on this maintenance backlog. So we did that. We also prioritized bridges. Mm-hmm. We directed the legislature or the Department of Transportation to focus on the worst of the worst across the state. We did also take the project selection process away from the legislature voluntarily. And it's probably the biggest miracle that we accomplished was we got legislators to give up that power to specifically choose projects. We put that in the hands of DOT and the 8-year plan. We let their engineers, their experts, the folks that know the system, know the needs of the system, let them decide where those dollars get spent.
You mentioned a second ago that part of the challenge was every other agency that wanted resources, and how do you find new resources? So every year now, the budget continues to grow at the Capitol, and every agency has a reason why they need a 5, 10, 20% increase for some. How do we maintain funding for a core system of government here in that environment? How do you continue to make sure we don't run into the situation you walked into in 2005?
Well, it takes prioritization, and I think that's the second miracle that has happened since 2006 is the legislature has kept the focus on transportation. Governor Fallin has picked up that baton and run with it. The legislature has avoided the temptation to reinsert themselves in the project selection process, and so that has worked very well, keeping transportation. And you got to remember, of the total state budget, at the most, transportation is 7%. Mm-hmm. So we're in there with some big guns fighting over those dollars.
A lot of folks think of transportation as the road or the bridge in their neighborhood, and they see some construction. But what do our roads and bridges, our highway system, what does it mean for the state? What are we talking about here? How important is this subject?
Well, you've never built a bridge that decreased economic development. Every opportunity to get somewhere more efficiently on a smoother road, across a bridge that you can take a significant load across, all that equates to an economic development. And it equates to safety. One of the issues going on in Tulsa right now is we're looking at a couple of bridges across the Arkansas, and one of the major reasons for that is so ambulances can get to the hospital quicker from the suburbs, from Jinx, or to get folks around downtown on the west side of town on the Gilcrease. So anytime you can improve efficiencies in getting products to market or folks to work. You're adding to economic development. You're strengthening the economy in your area.
So I want to ask you, you mentioned a county activity that you're involved in now, so you've been involved with the state and county. I want to ask you about bureaucracy and how we're all working together, because I got to tell you, I live out in Canadian County, and there's times that I feel like either the state, the city, or the county has a problem with those of us that live in Canadian County, because it seems like there's several projects overlapping that make either personal or commerce tough, although it is progress. So what's it like working between the county and the state and the feds?
You know, that's a common complaint. Folks just see orange barrels and they don't care if it's a city orange barrel or a county orange barrel or a state orange barrel. The problem that you run into is you do road maintenance and improvements when you have the money. When the money shows up, that's when you do the project. And so that limits your ability to plan things quickly. The relationship that the counties and the state have is very good. Part of our road plan, we doubled funding for counties, and instead of writing 77 checks, we set up a process where the counties apply for the dollars through the DOT on a per project basis. They work together through their circuit engineering districts and select projects together instead of on their own.
This is fantastic information. Will you stick around
Sure.
for our lightning round later and help us out? Ride sharing, do you do it? Still ahead, we'll discuss ride sharing trends like Uber and Lyft and what effect they have on our state. And we'd like to know what you think about all this. Please send us your thoughts and comments on this or whatever else you're concerned about for the state of Oklahoma on our Facebook or Twitter pages at MiddleGround TV. We'll be right back.
Yeah, the Liberty Foundation's job is to essentially shape the debate in states, and we do that by going into the states and making sure that we talk with local groups about how to talk about the jobs issue, how to frame the debate on the jobs issue, so that way it's connecting with American citizens in a way that is pro-free market.
And we can really lead on these issues to try to marry the needs of business, who need talent if they're going to keep the jobs in America, with the needs of the individual who needs those skills if they want to elevate their ability to earn and live their version of the American dream.
And we have to get out and tell the real story. And I think the Liberty Foundation and other organizations like the Liberty Foundation are the ones that can get out there and tell the story. And it comes, frankly, it comes better from the Liberty Foundation than it does from the oil and gas industry.
Welcome back. Joining us again is Mark Leota, Chief Deputy County Commissioner, and we've been getting some feedback from you, our viewers, on our Facebook page. So Mark, let's field some of these questions. Dan Myers asks in regard to that ASCE report, I'd be curious to know if an A is a theoretical road by which all others are measured against, or if some states actually do have A-rated roads. Either way, I'm not surprised at our grade. What do you say? What do you think?
Well, I'm not surprised at our grade either. When you don't do the maintenance you need to over a long period of time, the whole system goes down. And that's what we have been over the last 6 or 7 years, working on improving. And yes, our grade is not a B or an A where we'd like it to be yet. You can't improve infrastructure overnight. It took a long time for us to get where we are. It's going to take a while to get out. But I think if they did a rating of how fast states are improving, Oklahoma would be at the top. I don't know of any other state that has done more to reverse the trend than Oklahoma has.
Let's go to another question. Wayne King writes, roads and bridges are awful. I think what Wayne is probably signifying is this, hey, it's a little frustrating while we're going through it. We're in this spot. What advice would you have for Wayne and what you see going forward?
Just hang on.
Yeah.
The fact is that we've replaced hundreds, literally hundreds of bridges across the state, both on the county system and the state system. If you get in a little plane and fly over the state, you can see them because they are built at a higher standard than the original bridge. So we are making significant progress across the state. And once you fix a bridge here, you take the load off of several bridges around it, and that just increases your efficiency on the system. So I think we are making significant improvements and just just hang on.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
Right, we're heading. One more question. Denise Crosswhite-Hader commented, we all say that there's a priority, but then we spend more of our state's tax dollars on other projects. So this is kind of that point of, hey, if this is a core function, we should be really investing here and not getting out into the weeds. What would you say to that?
Well, she's singing my song. The legislature is the contest of ideas, and everyone walks in with their priorities, but I think we can all agree that you can have the best school or the best hospital, and if you can't get there, then what are you spending your money on? Roads and bridges are the nervous system of the state, and you've got to be able to move product, move people for our commerce to work. So I think it's an obvious core function of the state that for too long we have not prioritized. Luckily in '06 we reversed that trend, and this legislature has kept that direction.
Fantastic, Mark. Thanks so much for your insight. Folks, we will be right back.
Yeah, the Liberty Foundation's job is to essentially shape the debate in states, and we do that by going into the states and making sure that we talk with local groups about how to talk about the jobs issue, how to frame the debate on the jobs issue, so that way it's connecting with American citizens in a way that is pro-free market.
And we can really lead on these issues to try to marry the needs of business, who need talent if they're going to keep the jobs in America, with the needs of the individual who needs those skills if they want to elevate their ability to earn and live their version of the American dream.
And we have to get out and tell the real story. And I think the Liberty Foundation and other organizations like the Liberty Foundation are the ones that can get out there and tell the story. And it comes, frankly, it comes better from the Liberty Foundation than it does from the oil and gas industry.
We have a vision of Oklahoma that in the 21st century, you and I can be living in a daily land run where freedom just seems to seep out of the ground, where free enterprise creates opportunity for everyone at all levels of society. That is the type of Oklahoma that we were founded on. That's what this state was created upon, and that's where we see our future. OCPA is founded on the philosophy that free markets, individual liberty, individual initiative, and personal responsibility are what build safe, sustainable societies. It's what empowers people. Anyone, no matter what their hopes or their dreams are, should care about the success of OCPA, because as we breed excellence, as we succeed, what we're doing is ensuring that they have every opportunity available to them at their fingertips, and that no matter how big their dream, they can achieve it, because we're going to clear that pathway for them. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I think it's been a fantastic conversation about where we've been as a state, where we are now, and what we can see in the future for our roads and bridges, our safety, and our commerce in this state. Next week, we'll be talking higher education. Is it possible to make college tuition free for Oklahomans? And is that degree that you're paying for, or maybe one of your relatives, is that what employers are looking for? College is starting back up. This is important to all families across our state. So we'll have that and a lot more next week, right here on the Middle Ground on Fox Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Until next week, make it a great week, Oklahoma. Work hard and have fun. Thanks for watching.